Hello and welcome. Let's do a reading to see what comes out for the collective. Some of you are really not locking in with the High Priestess reversed. I feel like there's a disconnect whenever it comes to your spiritual self and you're really just like not listening. I keep getting this message for people who are following me or people who, every time I do something for collective, this keeps on popping up. I don't know if it's because just like maybe as this general sense, people do feel disconnected from themselves, just like overall in general. I could see that being a huge possibility because of so much misinformation that's being passed around and so much propaganda that people are seeing. So I want you to ask yourself whenever you receive information to really genuinely like check in with yourself intuitively and try to figure out if like that's correct or not. I have a friend who we both received the same news. I didn't think much of it. I just took it at face value. She was like, something's fishy about that. So she went and did the research and figured out that that actually was wrong. So I want you to really listen to yourself intuitively whenever you feel like, that doesn't make sense, or like, I don't know about that. Go and look into it, investigate so that you can figure out if what you're hearing is actually the truth or not, or if what you're believing about a certain situation or being made to believe because that's the way people are setting it up for you, like how truthful is it? Like do the research, figure it out, investigate, you know what I mean? I think a big part of this as well is sort of like not having faith in other people with this star reversed. The star is like a symbol of hope, and it's a symbol of like, looking forward to the future, things like that. I feel like with it being reversed gives me the idea a lot of people are feeling very nihilist about what's going on. A lot of people don't really have much faith. They don't like feel like it's worth going forward because they're just so like upset about with everything that's going on. And I feel like that's going to be a huge part too of what is disconnecting you intuitively from yourself. Whenever we get so down on ourselves that we don't have any hope anymore, they're like, what's the next step? You know what I mean? And that's kind of the whole point of what's going on right now. Like all of this misinformation, all this propaganda, everything, it's really just like a tool to get you to stop believing in any sort of future. Stop believing that things could be better, things like that. And I'm not going to say it doesn't work because I go through the same stuff where I get like very down on myself. It makes it hard for me to see like a positive future, but don't buy into it. Okay? Because it's not serving you. It's literally just working to make you feel disconnected from yourself and your fellow people and not embrace like the community around you, basically. With this Knight of Cups reversed as well, I'm really getting the vibe that there's some emotional manipulation going on. Either you're leaning, sorry if you can hear my dog chewing on her stick right now. She does it, she's not a very outgoing dog, so when she does it, I'm just gonna let her do it. So that Knight of Cups reversed like really gives me the idea that like there's some emotional manipulation going on, especially like infantilization. You know what I mean? Like someone who kind of like wants to behave like a baby and have everybody just like cater to them and be like, oh my gosh, I'm like, let me help you, or like good job for something that like really should not be given a good job. I feel like we're dealing with that like in masses in general as well, especially if we're looking at a lot of people who are in power, right? A lot of people like definitely are acting like babies, but then they want like to be rewarded and praised for what, you know what I mean? So I feel like a lot of people are leaning into that like baser instinct to emotionally manipulate, and they're like really leaning into that, but that we should not be doing that, right? We should not be entertaining that. And the more that people lean into that too, the less that they feel connected to their intuition as well, because they're going to more likely play the victim card. So it takes no looking within to play the victim. Like it's very instinctual. It's very instinctual to attack somebody, and then whenever they have a normal reaction to it or like whatever, to then turn around and play the victim. It's very instinctual. So that means that there's no internal work going on. They're not like doing anything that's progressive. You know what I mean? They're just kind of like sitting and rotting in this like area where they're a victim and they're a little baby, and nothing can really reach them whenever they're thinking at this level. What I want some of you to consider is the idea that it's time to keep pushing forward. So don't give up. If you need to take a step back, that's okay. But like, don't give up on the end result. You know what I mean? Like if you're feeling very down, you're having a hard time like seeing a future that's like positive for you, I want you to sit down and write some things that you really want to happen. And then I also want you to think like maybe realistically about like what these things going on. I also would suggest looking at history. If what you're worried about is the world at large, I would suggest looking more into history, politics, things like that, because what you're going to see is repeat patterns throughout history of similar things happening, and people still went on, right? That's not to say that people we know won't be victims at some point in time, because it's literally a part of humanity. It's literally a part of living. And that's just kind of like a compartmentalization that we have to do. You know what I mean? Like whenever you've survived through trauma and you have to keep living life, even though you like experienced what you experienced, it's kind of like a similar like way of thinking of it. You know what I mean? It's like bad things happen. That's the way the world is. That doesn't mean that it doesn't matter. But what it does mean is that like people have overcome and people will overcome. You know what I mean? And something else I learned too about anxiety is like whenever you're so focused on the anxiety or what you're worried about is going to happen, you experience it however many times until it does actually happen. If it does happen, right? And I could tell you, it does not really like, it doesn't set you up for reacting to trauma any differently than if you would have been surprised by it. That's not to say don't prep in your own ways that you need to, but I mean, I had a dog for 11 years, and I used to try to like mentally prepare myself for the day that he would pass away. I would just be like, one day that's going to happen, I need to be prepared. And I would just like constantly like remind myself of that to where like I was almost like not fully enjoying the fact that he was alive. And then whenever he did die, even though I kind of knew it was going to happen a few days ahead of time, like he was just showing signs that I was like, I don't think he's going to live very long. I still thought I had a few months. But it was literally like I started to think, I don't think he's going to live very long. And then just a couple of days later, he died. None of that suffering prepared me for that moment. None of it. I could have never been prepared for what that would feel like. So that's where it comes into like the anxiety of living through things multiple times is like, if it's something that's like guaranteed it's going to happen one day, or even something that's not. That's the thing too, you know what I mean? If you're always anxious about the idea that you could get into a car accident one day and then you never get into a car accident, you've spent so much of your life worrying about this car accident that never happened, you know? And then we have certain things that we know is going to happen. Like I knew that my pet was going to die, especially as he got older. I still was not really prepared for when it happened. So like all I'm saying is just like losing sleep and worrying and worrying and worrying. Sometimes we can't control whenever we worry, right? But sometimes it's like whenever you feel yourself spiraling and you're not taking the steps to think about other things, go outside, hang out with friends. Like there's so many things that you can do to combat anxiety. And whenever you refuse to do any of them, then you get what I'm saying? You're kind of just reliving in the same thing over and over again and never, you're doing this Knight of Cups thing I'm talking about here. The card I was about to put just fell on the floor. This final card has been popping up a lot as well, and it is the Lovers card. The Lovers represents something that's divine and something that is meant to happen. Destiny, that's what I meant to say. Something that is destined to happen. For some people, it could mean a relationship. I mean, it is the Lovers, right? But for other people, it literally just means like something that like just fits. So it's something that's like meant to happen. So what we're experiencing right now is something that is definitely like destined to happen. And this is kind of the reaction that we're getting. Like, you know, there's definitely like this like force to keep going and to find those places where you can be hopeful, you know, with this like star reversed. Like we need to combat that by finding places we can feel hopeful. And some of that's going to be tuning in a little bit more with your intuition, listening to yourself, like trying to understand like how you feel about certain things, like use some critical thinking, right? I've been seeing some stuff online of people like, it's just examples of people like using thought processes for the first time. Like they're so used to getting Google or the internet or their friends or whoever to think for them. So obviously this is like a lot generally younger people, and having that ability to actually sit with themselves and think for once, you know, like we're so consumed with technology. And I feel for younger people because it starts so young. And a lot of people don't really consider the fact that giving your child a phone whenever they're 5 years old and having that basically raise them, like how it's going to result in them having struggling with emotional regulation, thought processing, critical thinking, stuff like that. So there's like definitely like a kind of like a movement right now of like younger adults like realizing, oh, you can shut all that stuff off and just like think and like have thoughts and have critical thinking and like talk about stuff and have like an actual opinion. And it's not just like trolling online or whatever it is that like kind of gets promoted at a younger age with those like types of interactions. It's like actually having like genuine connection with somebody else and like actually critically thinking about these things, right? So this like destined to happen moment is definitely like approaching. And so I want you to remember emotional regulation, continue to try to have hope, and tune in with yourself intuitively. Sometimes shut off the device and do something that is meditative or something that's good for you, like mental health wise or emotionally. So thanks for watching. If you liked my video, please engage with it, share it with somebody, something to help me out. I'd really appreciate it. And give me a follow if you want more content where I share readings, maybe astrology, maybe tarot, whatever I feel like doing. So thanks. Bye.